My mind is a shrine built by experience. It's everyone's favorite aspiring revolutionary here, coming at you guys from Colbo Natural Areas. We are in Michigan. This is a pretty cool park. This is a pond that was formed by glacial movements, actually. That's what that sign said. I know I probably didn't hold it long enough there for you guys to watch it, but as always, my message remains the same. Spend less, live more, earn your freedom with frugality. And today we're going to resume our discussion of collapse and the impacts that, or the circumstances that led to the Bronze Age collapse, where the Assyrians, Hittites, Egyptian, an entire geopolitical system completely vanished, all within a single generation. Someone who was born at the beginning of the 11 or 1200s likely would have seen an entirely different world by the end of their life. So far, we've looked at the Sea People invasions theory, which is that basically some Bronze Age Vikings started to invade these Mediterranean empires, and the evidence we have for that are, like ruins, as well as the remains of these invaders and some letters that were sent by the Egyptian pharaohs talking about them. The next cause that we've already examined was drought-induced famine, which likely did play a role, and some historians believe may have been the motivating cause for the invasion of the Sea Peoples. But neither of these explanations totally hold enough weight on their own to explain why an entire geopolitical system came to its knees so quickly. Today, we're going to talk about natural disasters, specifically volcanoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis, which are things that we still deal with to this very day. Man, look at these trails. So here in Michigan, you get a lot more pine trees, right? So volcanic eruptions are rated using the Volcanic Explosivity Index. This is similar to the Richter scale in that it's logarithmic, meaning that an increase of 1 point on this scale corresponds to a 10 times increase in actual intensity, right? So there's only been a handful of volcanic eruptions that have reached a 7 out of 8. That's a maximum, similar to the Richter scale. And one of the most well-known that occurred in recent history was Mount Tambora in Indonesia, which exploded in 1815. And the effects that it had on global climate was quite profound. 1816, the year after its eruption, is known as the year without a summer. Basically, it erupted enough ash to cover a 100 square mile area with, what do you call it? With like a blanket of, with a blanket of ash. Sorry, I got a little lost here. I'm trying to take you guys to a small stream that's nearby. You see, we're kind of circling around the outside of this lake right here. Anyways, so that was in 1815. The Mount Thera eruption occurred in the Aegean Sea, which was occupied by the Minoan Greeks at the time, sometime around 1600 to 1500 BCE, which is several hundred years before the most common dates for the Bronze Age collapse occur. So it's kind of hard to directly tie these events to each other, but it could have had some long-term ramifications. This eruption, the Mount Thera one, likely generated what are called mega tsunamis, which are different from seismic tsunamis, the more common versions, in that these begin at maximum height. Like basically the volcanoes erupt and it push a whole bunch of stuff out into the ocean, and the waves automatically are huge. Other like seismic tsunamis, you can't even necessarily tell that they are massive waves when they're far out in the ocean. You can kind of just ride over top of them. They cause the water to recede, like we saw in, I think it was India, like when I was in middle school or whatever, 2008, 2005, something like that. So there would have been no advance warning for people like around the time, and the island of Crete was occupied and had basically all of its palaces destroyed roughly around this era. And what's interesting is Crete may have inspired Plato's Atlantis, and the devastation experienced as a result of these eruptions may have played a large role in his depiction of the events. So now, around this time also, the Minoans are invaded by the Mycenaeans, and it's possible that the Minoans were basically damaged by the volcanic eruption and the preceding tsunamis. But there are several centuries of lag time here, and other than volcanoes, earthquakes have also been held as a potential harbinger of collapse. And earthquakes do trigger tsunamis, the different ones. So there are evidence of earthquakes throughout the area occurring at the time, but generally when you see an earthquake, it does not lead to complete collapse. It may damage a culture's prosperity and make it where, you know, the culture may not necessarily return to its previous peaks, but for it to have a full-blown collapse is actually pretty uncommon. Yeah, I guess I'll upload pictures of the stream to my Instagram. I'm not quite sure where it is. And again, even with the volcano ones, an Aegean volcano may have exploded and caused some damage to the Greek states, but it doesn't really explain why places like Assyria in modern-day Iraq fell apart. So, this right here is just a quote from Tacitus, not totally related, but the more corrupt the state, the more numerous its laws. So we've looked at the invasion of the Sea Peoples, which very definitely impacted the Egyptians. Probably wasn't the complete explanation for collapse. We've looked at drought-induced famine, which probably was the motivating factor that caused the Sea Peoples to begin migrating and invading all of these Mediterranean states. These bugs, man. And we've talked about earthquakes, volcanoes, and tsunamis, which probably did play a role in destroying some of the ancient Greek cultures and stuff that were around at the time. Next time we talk about collapse, we're going to bring up plagues. Kind of relevant, right? But that's pretty much all I have for you guys today as far as content. This is Coolbo Springs. I've got some pictures of all these cool spots, but I'm trying to head up to Sleeping Bear Dune National Lakeshore so I can record my next song tomorrow, Surpassed by Creation, and I'll have that one uploaded. So, just some other tidbits. Man, dude, it's weird being 28 years old. I've been thinking a whole lot. I know on some of my other videos I've mentioned it, but really since I turned 18, I've almost never had to work like a regular 9-to-5 type job. And at this point, basically everybody that I went to school with, like as far as high school goes, they are all working those kinds of jobs, right? And you don't really realize how valuable your time is as a child. And then like once you are working full time, most people basically never escape that for their entire lives, which is just crazy to me. Like I have been able to do stuff like this always. Even whenever I was knocking on doors, like I was supposed to be in the neighborhoods the whole time, but I would frequently, especially if there was a neighborhood with a park like this, I would pretty much go to the parks every chance I had, right? 28 years old, you are old enough, you're definitely like an adult. I've been out of college for longer than I was in it. And, yeah, I don't know. Not anything in particular. I'm definitely enjoying what I'm doing. I have been thinking that, ultimately my life kind of has two potential paths in front of me. Basically, I could go back to door knocking, work for another team somewhere that I could basically have a blank slate. And the thing is I really did enjoy knocking on doors when I was good at it. I made a lot of money, and I got to travel the world all the time. But it wasn't totally what I wanted to do either. Now, I brought up other people in my age group, my age cohort. Very few people get to spend their lives doing what they want to do. Almost nobody. So for me to even have an opportunity to think, like, what do I want to do? That's pretty awesome. I could also go and become a nurse. That would take several years of actual, before I could start doing travel nursing, which would be like my preferred way of doing it. Or I can continue what I'm doing here, maybe even invest in like some actual camera equipment and try to create a business gathering nature photography and doing like web design and social media posts for other people. I mean, I already make a living as a freelance writer, but I really do not earn a ton of money doing it. So if I were to start my own business, I probably would have a little more upside potential there. Anyways, as always, my message remains the same: spend less, live more, earn your freedom with frugality. This is a wandering author here, reminding you that we are all the authors of our own lives. What are you guys doing in order to inspire, uplift, and empower your community today? Because this world isn't changing unless we all do our part, and you can count on me to do mine daily. Until next time, love y'all.